What it is. Welcome to 2026. Sorry for clearing my throat to start off this stream. We have news happening even on Sunday. While the rest of the world was watching football games, we have developments in the White House, developments in Iran. We have assets positioned right now, possibly to strike Iran. I might have led with that story, but instead I led with the DONROE doctrine. We are threatening pretty much everybody in our hemisphere, and Iran in a totally different part of the world. And Trump is feeling awfully emboldened, Trump and his administration. So I'm just going to cover the latest news. We're going to talk about the ins and outs. We're going to talk about Venezuela and whether we're going to be running that country. I just took my methylene blue, see, for the Alex Jones friends. So I had to be hyped up for this show. That's why you might be seeing that in my mouth. Didn't want you to get distracted. So we're not selling methylene blue here, though, not yet. So anyway, welcome to the show. We'll get through it relatively quickly. And we'll cover the Secretary of State, National Security Advisor Marco Rubio went on a number of shows today. Carly Todd says, we're the bad guys. Yeah, we are, basically. At this point, we're threatening pretty much everybody, including Greenland. So Trump says we need Greenland. We must have Greenland. Trump said that we are in charge of Venezuela, or he said running Venezuela. Well, that's not true. Rubio had to clear that up today. We're not running Venezuela. People are marching on the streets right now in support of Maduro in Venezuela, just in case you thought we'd be greeted as conquerors or greeted with open arms. The current government is Maduro's government. The people didn't all dislike Maduro. He was probably illegally elected, but we're not putting in the government that did get elected. We're not putting in the Nobel Peace Prize winner. Most definitely. Not now, not super soon. So people are asking, what are we doing? We're threatening Cuba. Cuba might be next. Like I said, we have assets on the move since yesterday, and the pizza shops are busy around the Pentagon. So there may be imminent action in Iran soon. We may or may not have captured Maduro to help out Israel, but there are some rumors about that. We are worried about Iran and Hezbollah inside of Venezuela. So this is the new regime right now for 2026. Just in case you thought it would be America first in 2026, it doesn't look like it. It looks like we're looking to get into foreign entanglements as fast as possible, only because they haven't gone wrong yet. They haven't gone wrong yet. I'm just going to suggest that Trump is feeling emboldened because the strikes on Iran went okay, and that the capture of Maduro went okay. So far, so good. And Trump says, I might have to play this clip multiple times. Let's see. Let's refresh my bookmarks. Thanks for joining me. If you want to support the show, go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. Drop a coffee and a super chat there. I'll read them before the end of the show. I'll check into them before this show is over, or visit our sale, our liquidation sale at truthclothing.io, where you can buy a lot of really great, super high quality t-shirts for $10 and $5. You will be amazed by the prices. So I won't show you them because it's a shorter show. We won't play our intro today because it's a shorter show. We just want to cover the news. So what are some of the things we want to talk about? Well, Katie Miller tweeted out a photo right away after we captured Maduro that said soon. I'll show you that. That's what's on the thumbnail for this video. Katie Miller tweeted out this map. I'll show you, which says soon. She's just the wife of somebody who works for the Trump administration, but she feels comfortable tweeting that soon Greenland will be ours as well. Greenland, like you might expect, or actually Denmark, which owns Greenland, isn't that happy about it. Katie Miller came out with this, and then Donald Trump went ahead and said, oh no, we have to take Greenland. We are threatening to take Greenland, which is a NATO country. So theoretically, if somebody were to try to take over Greenland militarily, we would have to protect Greenland, but at least all the other countries would have to protect Greenland from us, I guess, in this case, if that's what we're threatening. It's very unclear what we're doing or how we plan to carry out what we plan to carry out, which as of right now, according to Trump and sources, is that we are threatening Greenland, Iran, Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico. Let me see if I finished the list. We're going to take control of Gaza, supposedly, which will leave how much time, I wonder, to figure out healthcare and other issues that are happening inside of America, while we're busy running as a bunch of countries that will fall into disrepair as soon as we remove their governments. Just curious if this is what you voted for. I voted for the motherfucker. Pardon my French. He said no new wars. He said no regime changes. And now we're talking about literally regime changing everybody because the Maduro arrest went so well. Let's show you. Greenland is, Denmark is pissed off. I won't read you their response, but they say, stop threatening us. This is ridiculous. We're an ally of yours. We're helping defend the Arctic, etc. I'll play, it's Stephen Miller, who is Jewish, I believe. Homeland Security Advisor Stephen Miller. It was his wife. I couldn't remember his name for a second, so that's what I tell you. All right. Katie Miller, Stephen Miller. Okay, let's go to my bookmarks, please. Excuse me, please. Excuse me, please. Show me my bookmarks, please. Why are you not showing them to me? They're here somewhere. There. Here's people protesting in Venezuela. So let's, I was going to show you the threat against Greenland right here.
We need Greenland for national security, not for minerals. We have so many sites for minerals and oil and everything. We have more oil than any other country in the world. We need Greenland for national security. And if you take a look at Greenland, you look up and down the coast, you have Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland for national security.
He just said we have more oil than anyone in the world. If you pay attention, people say Trump lies all the time. I don't really know. But he does say things that aren't true all the time. It is weird to say. We're saying now, like Rubio is saying, oh, we don't need their oil. We have plenty of oil. We do. We have lots of oil. Something like 35 billion barrels or something that we are proven reserves. I saw a chart. He said we have more oil than anyone in the world. Well, that's not true. Saudi Arabia has the most that's easy to get. I'll tell you about Greenland's oil because it's very complicated. Everybody was predicting that the price of oil would suddenly plummet because we're going to magically turn on a spigot and pump out a ton of oil from Greenland. That's not true. So I'll talk about that during this episode. We just want to clarify a few things. I will tell you what the Prime Minister of Denmark says. I will go ahead and say that. She says, it makes absolutely no sense to speak of any necessity for the United States to take over Greenland. The United States has no legal basis to annex one of the three countries of the Kingdom of Denmark. The Kingdom of Denmark, and thus Greenland, is a member of NATO and is therefore covered by the alliance's collective security guarantee. We already have a defense agreement between the Kingdom of Denmark and the United States that grants the U.S. broad access to Greenland. In addition, the Kingdom has made significant investments in security in the Arctic. I therefore strongly urge the United States to cease its threats against a historically close ally and against another country and other people who have stated very clearly that they are not for sale. Trump is mad that there are Russian and Chinese boats around there. As much of what we're doing in Venezuela has a lot to do with China. Yeah, according to Rubio too. So I'll play you some of that. So that's what's going on with Greenland. Trump says we need Greenland for national security. They also have some minerals there that are nice. Here's people on the streets protesting Maduro's arrest. We played the first thing that happens when you capture an unpopular world leader, like when we killed Saddam, is you show the people celebrating in the streets. And then if you're George Bush, you go on an aircraft carrier, you put up a big banner that says mission accomplished. Then you spend another 10 years in a quagmire getting American soldiers killed. So the first thing we showed was a bunch of Venezuelans in Miami celebrating. Then we played some Venezuelans in Venezuela celebrating. But actually today they're marching. Bring back Maduro. So there you go. Not necessarily 100% popular. So anyway, what we did in Venezuela, we say we're running the country, and some people were suggesting we made a deal with the vice president. So the vice president is in charge, this female is in charge of Venezuela now. People were suggesting that we made a deal with her that she would allow us to take over the oil. We are not running the country. The government in charge is still Maduro's government. And as for their public statements so far, they say that they don't want to be a colony of the United States. And actually, the people still support Maduro to a great extent, if not all of them. A lot of people hate Maduro, but it would be like if somebody captured Donald Trump. A bunch of people would celebrate, but a bunch of people would be mad. So that's what happened with Maduro. And we left his government in charge. We left some other people in charge who still have bounties on their head. We plan to control the country by controlling their oil. That's our plan. We plan to control the country by controlling their oil. And now we are pressuring the remaining government, and particularly the vice president, to allow us to control their oil. But as of right now, that's not what she's allowing. So we're threatening her now. Trump is threatening her. Trump says about they're calling her an interim president, Delcy Rodriguez. Trump says if she, quote, if she doesn't do what's right, she is going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro, adding that he would not stand for Rodriguez's defiant rejection of military intervention by the United States. And then what he said about Greenland in a text interview in The Atlantic, he said, we do need Greenland, absolutely, and described it as being surrounded by Russian and Chinese ships. We don't like Russia, China, or Iran, basically. So in a way, it's a little bit of a proxy war. They were benefiting from Venezuela because they were able to buy Venezuela's oil cheap, which Rubio makes clear in his interviews. The only legal justification we had for going after Maduro was that he was indicted for drug trafficking, which is exactly what we did to Noriega back in the day. And we don't care, obviously, about drugs. The drug boats were obviously a distraction because what we cared about was the oil. He's not indicted for fentanyl. No fentanyl goes through Venezuela. He's indicted for trafficking cocaine, which we just pardoned. That when I say we don't care, we just pardoned a guy. Trump did. Sorry, we. Wasn't us. Trump just pardoned a guy who was convicted, not just indicted, convicted of trafficking like 400 tons of cocaine. And Venezuela doesn't make cocaine. Colombia does. And apparently some of it goes through Venezuela. How much was funding the Maduro regime is a question that's up in the air. Apparently we think some drug money was funding his regime. But mostly we care about his oil because that's what funds the government there in Venezuela. So we want to take over the oil, but we now have no legal justification to do anything else. We can't capture the vice president, and we can't put boots on the ground. We can't capture the vice president because we haven't indicted her of anything yet. And we can't put boots on the ground because we would need a declaration of war. It's possible we may have needed a declaration of war just to go in and grab Maduro because we definitely bombed a bunch of people and killed some people. And it was done by our military. But we're justifying it as a DOJ arrest assisted by the military. Michael says, not a peep about drugs since Maduro's capture. Yeah, that was the thing, right? We cared because they're killing Americans. And they implied, if not said outright, that there was fentanyl, even though the fentanyl thing has been debunked because it's not in the indictment. And everybody already knew that no fentanyl goes through there. And fentanyl is what's mostly killing Americans, which the ingredients come from China, and it's trafficked through Mexico. But we are threatening Mexico now, too, to be fair. And we are threatening Colombia, too, to be fair now. So we are threatening people who deal drugs. We're threatening to bomb Colombia because they have factories that process cocaine. But we know how well the war on drugs works. The war on drugs works. Hugo Chavez predicted that he would be charged as a drug dealer back in the day, just like they did to Noriega. Why was the Jew? I'm pretty sure we got Noriega because we wanted to control the Panama Canal, but I'm just looking into it. Tied directly to the Panama Canal. Yeah. So that's why we got Noriega, because we wanted to control the Panama Canal, most likely. And we got Maduro not for drugs, not Noriega for drugs, but for geopolitical reasons. In this case, control of the oil, not necessarily because we need the oil or we need the money, but we don't want the oil benefiting our actual geopolitical enemies that are strong enough to contend with us, namely China, Iran, and Russia. So, which, like I said, Rubio kind of makes clear in his interviews today. So Trump has threatened the new vice president. Kristi Noem threatens the new vice president. I'll play that. Here's Kristi Noem threatening her.
How is the administration planning to do that, what you just laid out, to screen out the potential for a future leader to just continue on with the legacy of Maduro?
I think President Trump is done negotiating. He proved that a couple of days ago, that he is a man of action, that when someone is threatening the United States, he will defend it with every resource that we have, and he'll continue to do that. So his conversations now with the vice president in Venezuela are very matter of fact and very clear. You can lead or you can get out of the way, because we're not going to allow you to continue to subvert our American influence and our need to have a free country like Venezuela to work with, rather than to have dictators in place who perpetuate crimes and drug trafficking. President Trump has shown that with his operations in the Caribbean, as far as stopping drug boats. The Coast Guard has been heavily involved in stopping a lot of this shadow fleet of oil that has been trafficking illegally to many of our enemies and other countries. And then we're continuing now to make sure that we have someone in place that we can work with in Venezuela that doesn't want to continue to kill our children and our grandchildren. That's what is so fantastic about working for this president.
Great. That is fantastic. She's still pretending that it's because of drugs. Okay, that's fine. Maduro is a very charismatic character. So actually, the last straw, it was reported, the last straw for Trump was I was going to say Noriega, was Maduro dancing. Trump didn't like Maduro doing all of the dancing. Let's play some of that. Maduro dancing. Let's play some Maduro dancing. This is what the New York Times was reporting was the last straw, because he was doing that. He's great. He's great. Well, people are going to like him. He also got perp walked here and said Happy New Year. The TikTokers will probably have fun idolizing Maduro, I'm thinking.
Good night. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, sir. You are an interesting character. People were already doing remixes, AI remixes of him DJing in his helicopter uniform and his Nike jumpsuit. So we're not putting in Maria Corina Machado. We're not putting in a friendly government. That's definitely not happening. We're thinking we can work with the vice president, who already is thinking that we're not going to work with her. So it's already much, much, much more complicated than Donald Trump led us to believe when he said we will be running Venezuela. So here, let's see which clip is good about this. Here's Rubio kind of making clear about the oil, that it's because of Russia and China. So here it is.
Oil. The president says the U.S. is taking over the oil. The question is, I guess, if the purpose of the operation was to capture Maduro and bring him to justice, why does the United States need to take over the Venezuelan oil industry?
Well, we don't need to. First of all, let me go back up. We don't need Venezuela's oil. We have plenty of oil in the United States. What we're not going to allow is for the oil industry in Venezuela to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. You have to understand, why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
Have specific oil companies?
We also want to see that oil and the proceeds from it. Hold on. We want to see the oil proceeds of that country benefit the people of Venezuela. Why have 8 million people left Venezuela? 8 million, the single largest mass migration probably in modern history, left Venezuela in 2014 because all the wealth of that country was stolen to the benefit of Maduro and his cronies in the regime, but not to the benefit of people of Venezuela. You know how destabilizing 8 million migrants is? The number one fear that Brazil has, that Colombia has, that all these countries in the region have about what's happening in Venezuela and our involvement is they're afraid of another mass migration event. That's what they fear. This is deeply destabilizing stuff. It's not going to continue to happen. They are not going to come from outside of our hemisphere, destabilize our region in our own backyard, and us have to pay the price for it. Not under President Trump.
Let's talk big picture here. U.S. regime.
All right. So you can definitely argue that as a result of our sanctions and our meddling and trying to destroy Venezuela and overthrow their government, because we try to destroy their country first economically so that the people will revolt against the government. So as a result of that and having a bad government, people left. And speaking of which, we are apparently, well, let's see, there's some conversation about Kristi Noem saying that we would allow refugee status. Let's see what the tape says, because this is a controversy, obviously.
Every individual that was under TPS has the opportunity to apply for refugee status, and that evaluation will go forward. But we need to make sure that our programs actually mean something and that we're following the law. And that's how that decision with TPS was made. Okay,
so that's for Venezuelan refugees, because we tried to kick them out and send them back to Venezuela. And so she's saying some of the Venezuela refugees can apply for refugee status at this time, it sounds like, but it's being Homeland Security apparently refuted it. But they got community noted on it too. So apparently we are now offering Venezuelans who had temporary protected status a chance to apply as refugees. So we were trying to kick out Venezuelans. Didn't we say they were all in a gang? So there you go. That's a story. That's a little bit of story about the oil. Here's a little bit more of Marco Rubio asking how we plan to run Venezuela and under what legal authority we plan to do that.
This morning, President Trump was pretty clear yesterday. He said the United States is going to run Venezuela. Under what legal authority?
Well, first of all, what's going to happen here is that we have a quarantine on their oil. That means their economy will not be able to move forward until the conditions that are in the national interest of the United States and the interest of the Venezuelan people are met. And that's what we intend to do. So that leverage remains, that leverage is ongoing, and we expect that it's going to lead to results here. We're hopeful.
Okay. The problem we're having is that we're threatening everyone, and we have no legal basis to carry out our threats. We can do this blockade against sanctioned boats. That's kind of legal. The extrajudicial killings are illegal. Everybody says so. The killing of the people in theoretically drug boats, they may or may not be, we haven't proven it, is illegal. The seizing of boats is sort of legal because they're sanctioned. Technically, they're sanctioned boats. So we can hang out there with our ships and once in a while capture one of these sanctioned boats. And as long as it's only sanctioned boats, then we can do a type of blockade. And in that way, we can kind of starve the Maduro regime, which is still in charge of Venezuela. And then we can force them to let us, I guess, American corporations, come in and control their oil fields and come in and control who they sell oil to, which would no longer be China, Iran, and Russia. So that's what we're angling for. But we have legal handcuffs. Unless Trump really, really, really wants to be impeached when the Democrats take control of the Congress this fall, well, next year. Now, the Senate, Republicans will still probably control the Senate. So actually impeaching Trump and getting him out of office might be difficult. But we have to do things sort of legally. And Trump's lawyers came up with some kind of shady legal justification for the extrajudicial killings. But that's being challenged, especially killing people that were survivors. But we have, the only thing we can do legally is capture sanctioned boats, which will kind of starve the Venezuelan regime. but doesn't mean they have to hand over control of their oil. And then I'll talk about the oil itself and how easy that actually is. So
that it does. Positive results for the people of Venezuela, but ultimately, most importantly for us, in the national interest of the United States. We will no longer have, hopefully, as we move forward here, we'll set the conditions so that we no longer have in our hemisphere a Venezuela that's the crossroads for many of our adversaries around the world, including Iran and Hezbollah, is no longer sending us drug gangs, is no longer sending us drug boats, is no longer a narco trafficking paradise for all those drugs coming out of Colombia to go in through the Caribbean and towards the United States. And obviously, we want a better future for the people of Venezuela. We want them to have an oil industry where the wealth goes to the people, not to a handful of corrupt individuals and stolen by, pirates all over the world. That's what we're working towards, and we intend to use the leverage we have to help achieve that.
Let me ask the question again. What is the legal authority for the United States to be running Venezuela?
Well, I explained to you what our goals are and how we're going to use the leverage to make it happen. As far as what our legal authority is on the quarantine, I'm very simple. We have court orders. These are sanctioned boats, and we get orders from courts to go after and seize these sanctions. So I don't know, is a court not a legal authority?
So is the United States running Venezuela right now?
Well, I've explained once again, I'll do it one more time. What we are running is the direction that this is going to moving forward. And that is, we have leverage. This leverage we are using and we intend to use. We started using already. You can see where they are running out of storage capacity. In a few weeks, they're going to have to start pumping oil unless they make changes. And that leverage that we have with the armada of boats that are currently positioned allow us to seize any sanctioned boats coming into or out of Venezuela, loaded with oil or on its way in to pick up oil, and we can pick and choose which ones we go after. We have court orders for each one. That will continue to be in place until the people who have control over the levers of power in that country make changes that are not just in the interest of the people of Venezuela, but are in the interest of the United States and the things that we care about. That's what we intend to do.
When the president was asked yesterday,
the legal authority is the court orders that we have.
When the president
there you go. So that's it. Why are we running Venezuela? We're going to try to control Venezuela by controlling their oil. That's all. I don't know if American corporations are even interested. We'll have to talk about the oil, the actual oil, because I don't think it's clear for everybody. Rubio also threatened Cuba. So I'll play that clip. Which, again, I don't know where we're going to find the legal justification to do anything in Cuba like we just did in Venezuela. And what we just did in Venezuela is nothing. It wasn't a regime change, and we're not proposing a regime change. We're proposing controlling them through gunboat diplomacy, which may or may not work. And the people the people of Venezuela may or may not like it. Because we say we're doing it for them, but then we say we're doing it for us. We just want, that's it. It's super simple. We just want to control their oil, and in so doing, control their government so that their government doesn't help our actual adversaries. Venezuela isn't an actual adversary, but we consider Iran and Hezbollah and China to be actual adversaries. And we consider, because of the Monroe Doctrine, the DONROE Doctrine, that we own the entire Western Hemisphere. That's our position right now. And everybody must serve our interests. Every country in the Western Hemisphere must serve American interests or be replaced. That's our current policy, it sounds like.
Go bonkers.
Is the Cuban government the Trump administration's next target, Mr. Secretary? Very quickly.
Well, the Cuban government is a huge problem. Yeah, the Cuban government is a huge problem. First of all,
is that a yes?
Cuba, but I don't think people fully appreciate. I think they're in a lot of trouble. Yes, I'm not going to talk to you about what our future steps are going to be and our policies are going to be right now in this regard, but I don't think it's any mystery that we are not big fans of the Cuban regime, who, by the way, are the ones that were propping up Maduro. His entire internal security force, his internal security apparatus is entirely controlled by Cubans. One of the untold stories here is how, in essence, you talk about colonization, because I think you said Dulce Rodriguez mentioned that. The ones who have sort of colonized, at least inside the regime, are Cubans. It was Cubans that guarded Maduro. He was not guarded by Venezuelan bodyguards. He had Cuban bodyguards. In terms of their internal intelligence, who spies on who inside to make sure there are no traitors, those are all Cubans.
All right, Secretary.
Go bonkers.
So there you go. Apparently it was Cubans protecting Maduro. It was supposed to be Russia and China, but they didn't do a very good job. So here's Trump really laying it out. He clearly is feeling like he can do whatever the F he wants very clearly right now because it went well so far, in his opinion. The strike on Iran, we didn't suffer any consequences. So far, we haven't suffered any consequences from capturing Maduro. But these are very early days. And if we decide to go ahead and start bombing Iran, where we have planes in position right now, once we actually regime change places, then it gets ugly after that. But here's what he says. This is really worrisome.
But we can't take a chance after having done this incredible thing last night of letting somebody else take over, where we have to do it again. We can do it again, too. Nobody can stop us. There's nobody that has the capability that we have. You know, when I watch that war in Russia going on and on and on and everybody dying, and it's like, it's primitive. It's primitive. It's horrible. It's horrible.
Could you tell it?
But we can't take a chance after having.
Nobody can stop us. Nobody can stop us. We are the best. Nobody can stop us. We are going to do it again. We're going to do it again. Well, we'll see. Like I said, it gets complicated now. It gets really complicated. So we'll really see. Now, as far as the oil goes, I'll just talk about it because it's kind of, people say, oh, it's $17 trillion worth of oil. And people said that the oil price was going to go down right away. It's gone down slightly. I just checked in on the oil price. It's gone down a little so far, a little. But that $17 trillion of oil, oil isn't free. You don't just tap it and extract it for zero. So a lot of people kind of think that it does because they're like, oh, it's $17.3 trillion of oil. That's not $17.3 trillion. It costs money to drill for oil. And the 300 billion barrels of oil that's supposedly proven supply of oil underneath Venezuela, it's only worth it to dig up those barrels of oil if the oil price is high enough, because otherwise it costs more to dig it out of the ground. It's a very complicated environment. I've just been reading up on it. It's just a very complicated environment there in Venezuela, and it's not super easy to get the oil. That's why they're not that good at it. American companies would do a better job, but the price of oil is already very low. And if we have a recession or a depression, like it seems like we might be about to have, and the price of oil has been going down, just like the price of a lot of other things are going down, it could be because we're going to experience a recession, in which case the price of oil will go down further, in which case expensive oil to dig up, it won't be worth digging it up. So this oil, American corporations so far haven't expressed real interest in going in there, because it will take billions of dollars of investment first before the first drop of profit comes out of the ground. And it could take years. So we're not going to see a meaningful drop in the oil price because suddenly we're going to release a ton of Venezuelan oil. It's super hard to get out of the ground. American corporations aren't going to be interested in going there unless they know that the country is going to be secure for a period of time. And anyway, their investments are already set in place for the next 6 months or so, at least. They're not going to just jump into Venezuela and suddenly spend billions of dollars to drill this for this very difficult to extract dirty, filthy oil, which we have refineries for, which like it, this heavy crude. But that's why Saudi Arabia is always in good shape. For them, it's very easy to take out the oil. The oil is easy to take out and it's very nice. So Saudi Arabia can always fuck with everybody else because it's really cheap and easy to tap their oil supply. Their nice, light, sweet crude is easy to dig up out of the ground, and they can do it cheaper than anybody else. And they can put everybody else out of business by just releasing more oil if they want to. That's why we want to control Saudi Arabia at all times. Our oil extraction isn't super easy. The fracking is kind of expensive. The price of oil the way it is now isn't that great for our companies here in Texas. So it's not that simple. And it would require possibly boots on the ground, which we have no legal justification for, and which most likely the Congress and the Senate won't allow. We would need a declaration of war against Venezuela, which has literally done nothing to us, unless you classify cocaine as a weapon of mass destruction, which is a stretch. It's very difficult to justify war against a country because they're killing Americans with cocaine. Pretty difficult. We're trying. We're killing people already because of that justification, but it's very hard to justify legally. So this whole thing is not easy. It's very complicated, and we are feeling it right now. Trump is really feeling it right now and thinks that we can just take over the Western Hemisphere and Iran, and then we'll control Gaza too. He wants to be in control of that, which are all likely to turn into quagmires. The Gaza thing, the Gaza piece isn't really going to last. I mean, anybody who thinks that Hamas is just going to disarm easily. So we're writing checks. How does it go? That our bodies can't cash. Is that how it goes? We're writing checks that we can't cash, basically. So anyway, that's the update on what's going on geopolitically. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you want to support these streams, like I said, go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. I will check my coffees. We are demonetized because we are considered harmful. Someone may have bought a coffee between the last show and this show. Someone bought a coffee and said, "Glad you're back," in case I hadn't seen that one. So thank you for that coffee. We drink coffee every day. And I live in California, where the coffee I drink is not cheap because of the tariff situation and so forth. Don't let your mouth write a check your butt can't cash. I think that's about right. And that's kind of what we're doing right now, is our mouths are Trump in particular is writing checks with his mouth that his ass can't cash. So that's where we're at. Anyway, that's the geopolitical update. Tomorrow in other news, do we care? Candace is going to keep going on about Fort Huachuca. We'll follow that. So she's going to keep talking about Fort Huachuca on her next show. That's been updated. So we'll follow that. We'll follow everything else. But the news, obviously, is our quest for world domination at this point, which I suggest is just going to be kind of difficult and could end us in a lot of trouble. I just don't like the way things are going, personally. So that's the news for today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Good to see you. And we'll see you tomorrow, Monday, January 5th. At around 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, for the news. Always the news. All right. For now, that's what it is.